I hear you. I hear you. Cool. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Village. We are here today with Dave Dueck from Glenmore Christian Academy. We are always on a hunt for teachers and caregivers who are making a difference in youth's lives. And Dave is someone who I have been following for a while. He's an amazing teacher, and he is passionate about creating a culture of belonging in his classroom, which we know is huge. And look at this classroom. I didn't even know I was in a classroom. I thought I was in the wilderness. There's like moose antlers on the wall. And Dave, can you just tell us a little bit about why this ambiance?
Yeah, well, I think to be honest, I had a professor in university tell me that this really mattered, and I thought that was ridiculous. So I did nothing my first year. And then I saw someone who had a really cool room, and how that just changed how their students interacted and like how they felt. And I'm like, wow, this really made a difference. So I'm into carpentry, and my grandpa had a bunch of old stuff, so I've been kind of eventually just putting it up all over the place as we go, but it's made a huge difference just to have an environment where kids feel like they have a home away from home, especially because some kids don't always have that safe home environment. So the very least I can do as a teacher is make sure that I'm creating a safe home environment when they come here.
Wow, that's powerful, and I think sometimes we forget how important just creating that space, the physical space, it's huge. And I love what you said about home. For people to feel at home, for these kids to feel at home. And you teach grade 5?
I teach grade 5 and a little bit of grade 4 too, so it's fun.
Perfect age, perfect age. Well, Dave is an amazing teacher at creating belonging, and he's got some secrets. And Dave, what's one of the secrets that you say would be like pivotal for creating belonging in a classroom?
Well, you somehow have to convince them that they need to like each other. And that's very hard to do. So you need tricks. Because you can't really have a community if people don't like each other. And the only way people are going to like each other is if they know each other. So I try to create a lot of different ways they get to know each other. Part of it is even just using tables, as you see in the back here. Removing that island, I learn in an island all by myself, individualism concept, and move into I learn in a community. And that also comes with a certain brand of chaos, like more chatting, and sometimes I had to totally change my management style when I got tables, because it wasn't as simple as move here or do this or do that. It was much more like, okay, like, is your table on task? Are you ensuring that? Are you helping the person beside you, or are you harming them when they're learning? And so I think for me, but giving them a chance to learn how to work really well together, and by the end of the year, it totally is one of those things that just pays for itself, because these kids, you have the kids that are more academically strong, actually helping those kids who are more academically in need, and you have those kids that are kind of, I love the term street smart. You have the kids that are more street smart helping the other kids through some of the problem solving aspects that they wouldn't academically think of. So it's really interesting as it kind of bonds together all of our learning styles and helps us figure out, like, where's our piece, where can we speak in well, what are some of the gifts that we can bring to the table.
Wow, that's beautiful. Learning in community, teaching them how to be good community citizens, being community minded already. That's very powerful.
Mm-hmm. We're stronger together.
Stronger together.
Like, it sounds cliche, but it's so true. And when the table, it's also, it has the negative effect too of, like, when the table is not on task, it doesn't go well, just like in a community, right? When there's a large group of people that are upset about something, there's dissension, right? And so you have to really, as a teacher, know how to unify that, and it makes you have to confront a lot of things, but you can speak the truth in love, and you work through those things. And anytime you get to do that, there's always an upgrade available in the way we communicate with each other, in the way that we work with each other, in the way that we see each other. It totally changes things.
Wow, that's really good. Well, and Dave, you mentioned a couple of things, because I know a lot of teachers and even parents, caregivers, we all want to create belonging in our homes and in our classrooms, but we don't know how. And you have mentioned 2 things that I don't think a lot of teachers even think that's their responsibility. And maybe it's not from a curriculum standpoint,
right,
but from a community standpoint.
Right.
Dave, you got to tell us about these 2 things that you mentioned to me, because they blew my mind.
Yeah, so I think one of the first things that that we can do is to create a culture of honor in your classroom. This is celebrating who we are, as one person says, celebrating who we are, not stumbling over who we are not. And I think there's a lot of kids that fall into comparison. And comparing is always despairing. We're not celebrating who we're created to be when we're looking to try to be someone else. I forget who said it as well, but they say, be yourself because someone else is already taken. And you kind of get that through the kids' heads, like wow, and maybe for the first time they get to think, hey, I'm a contributor. I'm very special. I have gifts. I have talents that maybe no one else has, or maybe in a different color that no one else has. And so what I do is really simply, I kind of unlock their eyes and their ears and their minds to start looking for honor. So honor is kind of what is so unique and special about a person that stands out, that's incredible. That's a loose definition. But so for an example, on the playground, this could look like, I saw someone on the playground go up to someone who really wasn't playing with anyone and invite them into their group. So this person would have the eyes to see that, they're looking for it. And then when they come into my class, just to start the class off, I usually have about 2 minutes or 3 minutes where I said, okay, does anyone have anyone they want to honor? And so they'll stand up and they will say, I just want to honor this person for doing this thing on the playground. So, and what it does is it essentially, as one of Connie's favorite lines, is it calls out the gold. And it pulls on those gold threads of who people are, and it encourages them in a way that's unique and individual to them, but also it spurs all of us on to start being those people, and then also to start looking for different ways that other people are making a positive difference. Whereas I think so many times you hear of playground and the first word that comes after that is issues.
Yep.
And so I like to find the wins. Where are the wins in the playground? Where are people being awesome human beings? And we're just not looking at it because it's not a problem. So we teach kids to find the positives in others. I think that's so important.
That's huge. And just doing that for 2 minutes a day could make a big difference in the rest of your day. That's huge. And then you mentioned one more, and this one, I think all of us, even adults, could learn this.
Oh yeah, I'm still learning.
We're probably never going to arrive, but it's so important to model this and to pass it on to kids so that they can honor. So what is this last one you mentioned?
Yeah, so the last thing that I've learned is so powerful in a classroom, and this one actually starts with the teacher more, is understanding the power of forgiveness. This can be the simple fact that as a teacher, kids are going to hurt your feelings, and it totally sucks, but we kind of choose to pretend that it didn't ever happen, and we're like, oh, it's part of the job. But we go home with those hurts and those wounds, and then we develop a framework of how we see someone the next day, and all of a sudden that kid is not a kid deserving grace, a kid deserving mercy, a kid that needs our help, and our kid that needs our compassion. That kid becomes labeled as a person who has hurt us. And so when we don't deal with that, it totally wrecks our friendship and our relationship and trust with the kids. So what I've tried to do at the end of every day is work through any unforgiveness I have in my heart. So let's say there was a kid who disrespected me by making a poor choice in the classroom, which is pretty frequent. Instead of, and you have to deal with it, and there's all those lines of the ways you deal with things. But for me, I deal with my own personal line, and I think that's just taking a minute and saying like, hey, I forgive this kid, I release them. They didn't wake up in the morning trying to hurt my feelings. They did hurt my feelings, and I forgive them, and I forgive myself. And I think that is such a huge piece as well. We teach kids how to forgive others, and we do not do any education on teaching kids how to forgive themselves. It is so important, because a kid will walk away and be like, oh, I forgive you, and then they'll walk away, they'll cut the anchor to the other person, and then it's still attached to them, and they don't know how to deal with that. So I think just walking kids through both parts of forgiveness. I forgive you, but now I'm actually going to choose to forgive myself. So important for kids to know how to do that.
Ooh, yes, so good. Yeah, because when we're in any kind of work, with whether it's social work, whether it's teaching, whether it's parenting, we pour our hearts out for these kids, and they don't always appreciate it. But I love what you've said. I think that is our responsibility to do that. And when we've done that, definitely the kids benefit, and we can model it. That's so powerful.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of teachers think of that. We really don't. So I think that you've given us some amazing food for thought for today. And I just want to thank you, Dave, for just being passionate about going underneath what's the line of duty, going beyond the math equations and getting to some of these things too.
Yeah.
And teachers, you make such a difference in kids' lives.
Yeah.
That one teacher, we all remember them, that one teacher that pushed us forward and made us who we are today. We remember them, and Dave, you're one of them. So thanks for joining us today on Village.
Thank you for having me.
Stay tuned for our next episode.